Welcome to episode 96 of the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business. I'm Brian Fisher. In the previous episode, 95, our guest was Jason Yerozzi, discussing building your future. This podcast series is targeted to business owners and C-suite executives. It reflects my 34 years as a business owner and subsequent years as a business mentor and consultant. It focuses on the various subjects and topics to help you run a successful, profitable business. They're approximately 15 minutes long, so you can listen while commuting. Hopefully, you'll find one or two takeaways to implement per episode. Today's episode discusses executive leadership growth with Jim Bishop. Based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Jim Bishop is the founder of Conjunction Leadership, an executive leadership coaching company. With over 2 decades of immersive experience in executive development, corporate leadership, and human performance, Jim Bishop stands as a beacon of transformative leadership through his business, Conjunction Leadership. Jim's journey has taken him across the globe, coaching executives, diverse teams, and orchestrating the modernization of leadership systems for transforming business units. Having collaborated with industry giants like Eli Lilly, Roche, and Elanco, Jim recognized the pivotal role of a visionary leader willing to first work on themselves while revitalizing their culture. This catalyzed the birth of Conjunction Leadership in 2020, where Jim provides executive coaching and team development solutions. As a certified coach by the International Coaching Federation and a certified leadership facilitator with Blanchard, Jim's methods are a blend of science and art. He empowers executives through executive coaching, corporate culture consulting, and team effectiveness programs focusing on holistic development within volatile context. At Conjunction Leadership, transformation starts within. The exclusive Disrupt, Bridge, and Grow process guides leaders on a journey of self-discovery, mindset shifts, and measurable growth. Let's welcome Jim Bishop. Jim, welcome to the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us today, Jim. Jim, I'm always interested in people's stories. What's your background in becoming the founder of Conjunction Leadership?
I spent 20 years in corporate America after a career that encompassed many different roles, sales and marketing to begin with, ultimately training and development, leadership development, executive development as a large part of that. And what I witnessed in that period of time was work was sucking the life out of way too many people. And so the purpose of Conjunction Leadership and the reason to step out of corporate America is to help work not suck the life out of people anymore. And I feel like when that happens, what happens is we no longer have the vitality to lead our families, our communities, or the broken world around us. And I want to flip that equation. I think that if we do it right, we can have leaders that create cultures, that create teams, that enable people to come out of work feeling more energized and more ready to go, so that at night they don't have to come home and just sit on the couch and recover. They can actually go and lead the churches or their school groups or their community groups and the things where leadership is void in our hurting and broken world.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. It's pretty easy to get the life sucked out of you, especially as a business owner.
Absolutely.
Well, today's episode topic is executive leadership. What's the difference between good leaders and great leaders?
Oh, my goodness. There's so much. You and I were chatting here even before the show that good leaders focus on all the things that needs to make the business run. They get the numbers, they make the money come in, hit the revenue targets, generally leading successful enterprises. Great leaders are those that recognize the tension between the execution and the strategy piece of the business, not only working on the business, but working in the business at the same time. Great leaders are also those ones that are creating a more optimal environment for us all to become better humans. They're not just doing it by slogging through the details and making sure we hit our numbers at the expense of what makes people come alive. Great leaders are doing it while they're helping other people become more self-actualized and more purposeful in their own life in this world.
Jim, you've been quoted as saying, business growth is leadership growth. What exactly does that mean?
It's never more evident, Brian, than in the world of entrepreneurship, right? In corporate America or multi-level organizations, sometimes it's a little harder because I can grow as a leader, and sometimes it's indirectly how the business is growing. But in entrepreneurship, where a lot of my clients live, it is if you're going to grow your business, you are going to have to face some of those things that are holding you back. The reactive patterns that you've shown up with, the bad behaviors that are mirrored to your employees or to your customers. You have to get rid of some of those things and replace them with a more optimal way of showing up in the world. And if you're going to grow, your business will grow. But if your business is not growing, it's largely in due in part because you're probably not facing some of those things and growing yourself.
And sometimes those are the hardest things to do is to face it and acknowledge it.
Yeah. We operate in a vacuum sometimes, and our best intentions live in our head, but our actions are seen by everybody around us, right? And we get the chance to judge ourselves by our intention, but that isn't really the way that other people see us. They just see the effect of what happens, not necessarily the intention of what was meant to.
We're speaking with Jim Bishop, founder of Conjunction Leadership. Jim, what role does coaching play in executive development versus traditional leadership development programs?
Well, what I found in corporate America was at a certain point in a leader's journey, they needed less instruction and they needed more reminding. They needed more reflection. While we can put leaders in classrooms and seats and teach them things, there's a point in time, especially in a busy entrepreneur's life, when those things aren't going to be practical anymore. The role that coaching plays is that pregnant pause in the middle of the day when we're so busy executing that we haven't really thought about how are we coming up for oxygen or how are we even making tomorrow better than today. In that one-on-one executive coaching session, what we have the opportunity to do is to start thinking about how do you get ahead rather than how do you just stay alive.
Jim, what results or lessons learned have you seen with businesses or individuals that have implemented your recommendations?
Well, in coaching, I think that's a fallacy is the coach really doesn't make too many recommendations. Most of the time, it's the client who's coming up with what they need to do. The space that coaching provides is that place for them to get courageous enough to actually do that. And I'm digging out of them what they already know they probably could be doing, but sometimes they're just fearful of doing. And so when leaders get more courageous like that and they're able to step into a greater sense of authenticity, all kinds of stuff happens. I've had leaders who have transformed the way their business operates and their culture operates to people who have just taken on new initiatives that they would have otherwise stalled away from because they were trying to create a more harmonious environment and steering away from the fact that change is probably going to disrupt some people's way of thinking. In order to get to where we want to be, we're going to have to change some things. So I see results all across the board, but most of them start when a leader says, I need to get more courageous in the way things are happening.
We're speaking with Jim Bishop, founder of Conjunction Leadership. Jim, is there anything I've not asked that you'd like to add?
Brian, I just think it's important for leaders to recognize that in our overly information saturated world, we have multiple things to be reacting to at all times. And what generally has happened in a leader's brain is they're fat on information, or I call it infobesity. They have access to more information and the ability to be more connected than ever. But what they don't often take advantage of is the opportunity to reflect and to create space. And it's in that kind of hyper intense environment where I'm flooded with information, but short on time, that I'm prone to making hasty decisions and quick decisions because I like the feeling of being addicted to the dopamine, but I don't always make the best decisions and the quality is there. So I think it's important for particularly busy entrepreneurial leaders at this point in their journey to start asking themselves the question, where's the white space going to come from?
Jim, how can people get in contact with you?
The best way to follow me is on LinkedIn. I'm probably most active there. You'll see daily expository comments or thoughts, free downloads and articles that you can read. My website is also the next best place at conjunctionleadership.com. There's a place there to download some free ebooks and some things that will help leaders get more comfortable in mastering this midlife leadership phase, what they know they need to do, but are sometimes afraid of doing. And then if you're so inclined, Facebook, social media, or the world is still so busy, I like to just respond to personal emails too. So Jim at conjunctionleadership.com is a great place to follow me or find me.
Jim, thank you for joining us today on the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Brian.
My sincere thanks to Jim Bishop for joining us today. Managing the performance of your company is one of the most important things you do as a leader. This podcast is on YouTube and over 20 podcast directories. Subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast. In search, type BCF ORG. Be sure to leave a space between BCF and ORG. If you'd like to reach out to me for business consulting or with any questions, comments, ideas, or potentially be a guest like Jim, please go to bcforg.com. There's a red Contact Us button in the middle of the homepage. A LinkedIn symbol's on the upper right. Click on that if you'd like to see my profile. All the podcasts are available by clicking on the website podcast page in the reference bar. These podcasts will be released the first and third Tuesday each month. In the next episode, 97, our guest will be Robert Curry, discussing internships. In business, running a successful, profitable business is the ultimate scorecard. You are never done and can always be better. It tends to be more fun than work, frustrating at times, but can be very rewarding. From BCF ORG Corp., I'm Brian Fisher, wishing you the best. Thanks.